Hello everyone, welcome to another Narc Survivor live video. I apologize in advance. But I am using my little microphone to try and make the volume as clear as I can. So the narcissist doesn't actually move on to something better. They want you to think that they do. They want you to think that they're going off into a better situation. Because remember, for them, it's all about themselves. It's all about their ego. It's all about feeling like they're getting something better. And I apologize for the noise in the background again. Got some children walking past, squeaking toys and stuff. It is quite a big park, but guaranteed wherever I go, although it looks completely isolated over there, if I go there, other people will gather quite soon. So I'm going to stay here for now. But yeah, they want you to think that they're going off into a better situation, because it's all about what people see. They can't find fulfillment in anything directly. They get people to filter an experience through them so that they can live vicariously through them, because that's the only way that they can experience anything. They can't experience anything directly. And this is why they're so hell-bent on destroying your self-esteem, your identity, your self-image. Because unlike them, you can experience things directly. You don't need to have an outside observer in order for you to feel good. But it isn't that way for them, and that's why they're very envious of this experience that you have. And it's why they want to destroy it. Because for them, the only way they can find any sort of fulfillment is if they get other people to filter their perceptions and experience through them so that they can live vicariously through them. And this is why they're so envious and jealous. They don't want to see you having anything. They try to sabotage you, because they want you to be a constant observer in their lives. They want you to be constantly watching them and what they have or what they're doing, because then it feels more real for them. It makes them feel like they have something. So it's never that they're moving on to anything better. For them, it's just all about the image. It's all about the display. It's all about, can they convince people that they have a good situation? And then underneath it all, everything is just a mess. There's a lot of problems. It's very dysfunctional. And of course it would be, because just look at how they left you. Just look at how you ended up after dealing with them. It was a very unhealthy situation. They caused a lot of problems for you. So of course they can't just move on and suddenly have something healthy with someone else. It never works out that way. The drama, the problems, the trauma, the chaos, that all follows them wherever they go. But for them, everything is about sabotaging you, preventing you from moving on, being happy, having a healthy relationship, because they know that you have the means, you have the resources to be able to do that. You have the emotional faculties, and they want to prevent you from doing that, because then it's going to feel less real for them when they move on, because you're not going to be too focused on them. You're not going to be looking at their social media, seeing their new relationship. seeing them purchase a new home, seeing how happy they're supposed to be. You're not going to be looking at any of that because you're going to be too focused on your own life and what you've got going on. And that's why it's so important for them to sabotage you and to isolate you, so that you can then be this observer, and then they can live through your experience vicariously. And then that's what brings them some sort of fulfillment, because it feeds their ego, it makes them feel important, it makes them feel like they have something. So it's not actually that they have anything, and it's really just always all about them. And typically what happens is they idealize the next person just as they idealized you. They put you on a pedestal. I apologize for the sound again. I know there are people shouting in the background, but I'm going to continue. Yes, they idealize the next person just as they idealized you. They put you on a pedestal, they view you as perfect. And of course, by doing that, when you idealize someone, it's not going to end well. It's not going to last for long. As the old saying goes, the bigger they are, the harder they fall. They put someone up on a pedestal just so that they're that far away from the ground when they finally fall, when they finally knock them off it. And we all know exactly how that feels. I mean, they put us on a pedestal. They made us feel perfect. And then they began to devalue us because we were towering over them. And they felt inferior to us. They began to threaten their false image by them doing that. So then they had to devalue us. They had to put us down. And that's because they can't find fulfillment in anything. And they can't find fulfillment because they're very insecure. They don't like themselves at all, and that's how they can't compliment you. They can't give you your props. And instead, it's just these extremes, these black or whites. Everything's either completely perfect or it's terrible, it's awful. It's all good or it's all bad. And they just switch back and forth between the love bombing and the devaluation. And everything's just all over the place. You never know where you stand. You never know if you're going to get Dr. Jekyll or Mr. Hyde. You just never know how things are going to be with them. Everything's always so unpredictable because of their emotional instability as a result of them operating with a false character. And then other times they're feeling insecure because they don't have much supply. So that's what typically happens. They idealize the next person, and it just sets them up to have a harder fall when they finally devalue them. And even what happens before that, the love bombing, none of that is real. It's all fake. It's all a mirage. It's all just a shared fantasy. And there's no connection there. They're not really together. They're not together in that at all. It's a separate experience. And it tends to be that the victim, they're being duped, just as you were. And the narcissist is just manipulating them for their own gain, not seeing them as a person, but as an object, as something that's has the inability to be independent or to govern itself. So it has nothing to do with a connection, intimacy, or romance. It's all just transactional, and it's one-sided because all the victim really gets is love bombing, lies, and future faking. So none of that is real, and you're not missing out on anything. There is nothing to be jealous of. And also what we tend to be seeing a lot now these days, because it's gone to a point in this world where empaths are very rare. Research shows that empathy has been on the decline since 1979. And statistics show that only 1 to 2% of the world's population are empaths who are high in affective empathy. And as we know, there used to be a time decades ago, if you imagine just the classic grandiose narcissist, who would their partner be? Of course, it would be that just a stereotypical calm, quiet, submissive, withdraw person who tends to be more empathic, who takes care of them. That would be the classic relationship of a grandiose narcissist. But we're not seeing that anymore because empaths are very rare. There's not enough empaths to go around for all of these narcissists, and of course, even the empaths that are there are now becoming awakened to this information, so they tend to be avoiding these narcissists, and now they have the ability to get out of these relationships when they can. So it's extremely rare at this point where narcissists are getting together with empaths, and to where they are able to contain them and keep them under control for a long period of time. It's becoming more and more rare these days. Because as it is, there's very few empaths in this world. And even then, when a narcissist does get with an empath, they don't like them, they don't really find satisfaction in them at all. They end up hating them, they turn against them, they want to destroy them. As many of you may have experienced with a narcissist in your life. It's not a pleasurable thing for them, they just want to destroy you. Because actually they prefer to be around other fake people like themselves. They feel more comfortable with that. They don't want someone who's trying to love them like an empath, because of course, what is love? If you're loving someone, you're going to call them out, you're going to hold them accountable, you're going to correct them, you're not going to enable them. And no narcissist wants to deal with that. So this is why what we see these days when you look on social media, it tends to be two narcissists together in a relationship. And I've spoken about this in a recent live video. So the most common that you may see on social media with all of these influencers, these Instagram models, it tends to be two overt, grandiose narcissists together. Now that's just like the classical modern day image of a narcissistic relationship. That's like the typical thing that you expect to see when you go on social media. But also there are other different types. You could have one overt and one covert, and that could be mistaken for an overt narcissist with an empath, but it's not. Victims and empaths can be commonly mistaken for what is actually a covert narcissist, because they often play the victim as well. And also there can be two covert narcissists together. That often happens. And so this is what they're likely to experience after leaving you. The odds are, because you've got to think, how did it end? How did they leave you? Did they leave you appreciating you, giving you your props? Did they see you as a wonderful person, or did they think badly of you? Did they think that you could have been better, you could have improved, you could have been more for them? Of course, that's typically how they view their victims, and they devalue them, they sabotage them, they discard them. So, by understanding that, it's clear that after leaving you, the narcissist is going to be looking for something better. They're going to be looking for someone more attractive, more successful, someone who they deem to be more capable. And of course, a healthy person, they're not going to be too overconfident. But as we know, that's exactly what narcissists are like. So they're very good at putting on a show, especially a grandiose narcissist. And that's how, that's typically where they end up. They end up being played, manipulated by an overt narcissist who acts like they're so much better than you. And of course, the narcissist falls for it, hook, line, and sinker, because that's exactly what they're looking for. They're looking to replace you. They're looking to find someone better. And also, narcissists are very self-righteous, so they may have demoralized you. They may have acted like you were a problem, and both overt and covert narcissists, they can be very self-righteous. They can seem very moralistic, as though they're these upstanding members of society. So they may get it drawn into that as well. And they may want to use that to complete this image, where they're then going to be more trusted by other people in society. So this is commonly what you can expect to see if you are able to see it, because of course you usually won't see it. If you're dealing with a narcissist, you're probably not going to see it. It's highly unlikely. I mean, with victims, it's like everyone has to see our blunders. It's always put on a show for everyone. They want to publicly humiliate us, further abuse us. That's typically how it is for victims, but you don't tend to see that with narcissists. And the reason why is because of their pride and ego. They want you to think that they're always comfortable. There's no problems for them at all. All of their needs are met, they're happy, they're doing good. That's the image that they want to put forth for you. And typically, whatever image they're putting out, it's usually the opposite. Such as when a covert narcissist is playing the victim, it's usually not that bad. They exaggerate it. Same thing with the overt narcissist, they exaggerate everything. The more they act like they're doing good, they're doing well, they're happy with this new source, the more that you should know that it's all BS. And even Dr. Ramani mentioned in one of her videos that the better a relationship looks on social media, the more toxic it is likely to be in real life. So even though they may be put it on social media and it looks great, that's usually all that it is. It doesn't go any deeper than that. It's all superficial. And that really reveals their narcissism, their childhood trauma, is that when they were a child as well, everything was superficial then. Their emotional needs were not met. But then also they do learn a lot from past sources of supply. They learn a lot from us, so they know how to make it seem like there's intimacy there, there's a connection, when actually no, there isn't at all. But they're very good at strategically making things appear a certain way. They know how to orchestrate it. But what you really got to think is you just got to take a step back and just look at it like this. Why are they going above and beyond? Why are they doing so much? This over-the-top effort to make you think that nothing is wrong with them, that they're doing better now, that they're so much happier without you. Why are they doing that? Because as victims, that's not what we do. We accept it, we go through the hurt, we go through the pain, because that's real. And that's what you're supposed to do. But as for the narcissist, they never move on. They never reach the end of the chapter, they never close the book, and instead they leave it open. They leave it without an ending. So they never move on. And that's how they never give you any closure. Trust me, when a narcissist, or when anyone has genuinely moved on, they're going to give you closure. They're going to tell you everything you need to know. They're going to answer all of your questions because they just want to get rid of you. They just want to be done with you. And it's the same thing with a narcissist. If they're done with you, if they're really moving on, they're just going to give you closure. They're going to tell you how it is, and they're just going to go. But you don't get that with most narcissists because they're never really done. They're never really moving on. And they want to keep that door open. They want to have something, some kind of information, something they could later reveal to you, something that you're holding on to, so that it gives them that open door, that opportunity for them to come back, because they know that they're always going to need you. And typically, once they begin devaluing you, they've already got a new source lined up. They've already got someone ready, waiting in the wings. And it's like they already know that that person isn't going to be good enough. They're not going to be a suitable replacement for you. And that's why they don't close the book. That's why they leave it open-ended for that reason. Because then they're hoping that later on, at some point in time, they can come back to reuse you. As with anything, all a narcissist can do is manipulate you. All they can really give you is an illusion. They can't give you anything else. And whether it's at the beginning, the middle, or the end, or even when you're viewing the next situation, everything is an act with them. And whatever you're seeing from them, it's usually the opposite. It really is. I mean, when they're mirroring you and they're presenting this ideal character to you, really it's the opposite. It's just manipulation. And they're going above and beyond to present this to you because they're actually the opposite of that. And that's why they try so hard. Because they want to show you that they can be something that you need. And it's crazy, but how it goes when they move on and they find another narcissist, they're usually both doing that to each other. So they're both giving each other a fantasy, thinking that the other person wants it, when actually no one wants that. Neither of them wants it. Neither of them wants intimacy, love, a connection. They just want to use each other. But they're both mirroring the false image of each other. And also, when they're devaluing you, and they act like they're so powerful and so important, it's because actually underneath that, they're really the opposite. I guess the only thing that is real is the discard. When they show you that they're really done with you. But even then, that can sometimes be used as a ploy. But honestly, no narcissist is going to move on to a better situation. It's just not going to happen. Because think about it. Those of you who are watching this, you clearly cared enough to learn more about it, to learn more about them. And why? Because you care. And what everyone wants is someone who cares about them. Narcissists are no different, and in fact, they want that more than anyone else. The only problem is you cared about how things actually are, rather than how they wanted to portray them to be. And that's why they got rid of you. Because you were focusing on something real. You wanted things to be genuine. You wanted them to just take off the mask and, okay, let's just start again. Let's work things out together. That's what you wanted to do. But that's not what they wanted. They wanted you to just go along with their narrative, and anything that they do, just sweep it under the rug, forget about it. That's how they wanted things to go. And that's why, in the end, they want nothing to do with you. Because you're not going to play along. You're not going to go along with it. You actually want something real. You want something genuine. And they can't give you that. They can idealize you. Initially, they can view you as perfect. They can put you on a pedestal. But then at some point, that's going to threaten them, and then they have to knock you off. And they're going to want you to see them as perfect as well. Not just at the beginning, but until the very end. No matter what they do. So essentially, that's really what's happening. And as I've always said in my live videos, they're not running from you. They're running from the true reflection of themselves that they don't like. And that's really what this comes down to. Because honestly, if you cause someone pain, if you hurt them, and you like yourself, you want something to do with yourself, you're going to be there for them. If you leave, you're going to go running back to them. Because you like you. You don't want to run away from you. Which means you don't want to run away from the consequences of your actions or the things that you have caused. You don't want to get rid of that. You want to hold on to it. Or at least end things amicably. But as for narcissists, they go around and they cause chaos. They cause all sorts of problems. And then they just want to disidentify from it and just run off into another situation and just act like that wasn't them. And yes, while in their minds they do construct these false characters, that's still just something going on in their minds. That's a form of psychosis. The reality is that they are still the physical being, and that's really who they are. They were not coerced, they were not forced to do anything, and that's why in the end they just want to run away, not from you, but they're running from themselves because they do not like themselves. So essentially what they're doing is just anything to avoid having to accept themselves. And this is why in the end the narcissist blames you. They just put it all onto you, and then they leave and they act like nothing was wrong with them, and it was all just you, it was all just your fault. Again, I apologize for all of the noise in the background. I know wherever I go, there's always these modified cars or bikes, whatever they are. I mean, as you know, in Malaysia, they don't have so many modern cars or modern technology. So it requires a lot of effort for them to drive on the road. Not like in the UK, the cars are very quiet. Even the sports cars, they and the standard mode of driving, the sports cars are just, it's like they're in stealth mode. But over here it's more older engines, and that's why it's quite noisy. I lost my train of thought there, but let me get back on it. They're not going to be in a better situation. They're really not. Things are never going to get better for them. And of course, I know there's going to be some people, so I have to nail this in the coffin. I know there's going to be some people who are watching this, and they're reading the title, they're listening to what I'm saying, and they're thinking in their minds, this is total BS. Because maybe they saw the narcissist, they went off with someone, they met a millionaire supermodel, a very intelligent person, a CEO, and yet here I am telling you that they're not in a better situation. So some of you may be watching this and wondering, how does that make any sense? But here's the thing. Narcissists cannot produce long-term success. They're very jealous, possessive, and controlling. They've always got to have the power. So even if they do meet this picture-perfect person, supermodel, CEO, millionaire, whatever it is, doesn't matter. They will destroy it all. They will ruin it. Because they're in it, they're a part of it. And anything they touch turns to poop. It just falls apart. Because it's just their nature, the core of them. It's wicked, it's foul, it's corrupt. So they cannot sustain anything. It doesn't matter who it is that they moved on to. Yes, it may look good initially, because initially they may be idealizing that person. They may let them be in control for a certain amount of time. But just give it time, because then soon, that image of perfection that they're viewing will then start to have power over them. It will threaten and intimidate them. And then the narcissist will seek to knock that person off their pedestal. They will seek to bring them down. And they will destroy everything. All to save their ego. All to save their own false image that they have constructed in their minds. So it doesn't matter who it is that they've moved on to. It doesn't matter how good it looks at the beginning. It doesn't matter how successful this person is. It doesn't matter. And we can see this in celebrities. We can see it in millionaires, billionaires. They've had millions taken away from them. Their careers destroyed. They were doing fine before. So it does not matter who they move on to. It doesn't matter if they move on to someone with a great personality. They're empathic, they're loving, they're compassionate. It just doesn't make a difference. There is no one on this earth who can save them. There's no one who can protect them from themselves. And this is why we speak about no contact, because as soon as you know that you're dealing with a narcissist, you need to get out as soon as you can, in the safest way possible, because they're only going to cause trouble for you. They're going to destroy you, and they're going to blame you for your own abuse, for your own destruction. And that's just the only way that it's going to go. That's just the nature of the beast. And it's not going to end in any other way. And don't just take my word for it. Look at all of the videos on YouTube. Look at everyone else who is going through this. Everyone else who did everything they could to make this person happy, to make things better for them. But no matter what they did, it wasn't enough. They turned their personality inside out. They gave them everything they had. And it didn't result in anything. Because it all just comes down to childhood trauma. These people, they need lifelong therapy. They need counseling. And so do we after dealing with them. You cannot fix them, you cannot save them, you cannot love them better. You cannot just give them whatever they're missing, whatever they think they need. That's not going to change anything. That's their mentality. They think that if they just had more, if they just had more love, more money, more things, then they would feel better, then things would be okay. But it never works out that way. They're always looking for the next shiny new toy, the bigger, better deal, but it doesn't change anything. Because the problem exists within them. They're causing these things to happen as a result of their own behaviors. It's just that they're disconnected from themselves. They lack self-awareness, so they can't see it. And this is why a narcissist could be throwing a fit. They could be raging at you. And you could just observe it and then just say to them, you seem angry. And even though their face may be turning red, they may have veins popping out of their heads, they will say to you, what are you talking about? I'm not angry. Because they're disconnected from themselves. They lack self-awareness. They're disconnected from their own emotions. And this is why they never change. Because of course, in order for a person to make improvements, to become a better person, they must first connect back to themselves. How can you change anything about yourself if you don't even accept who you actually are? And of course, that's the problem that they experience. And that's how things just get worse and worse, because they do all of these things and they don't take accountability for themselves. So nothing improves, it just gets worse. The more failed relationships they experience, the more problems that they have, the worse things get. Because they're the ones who are the cause of the problem as a result of their emotional instability. Honestly, if everyone used logic, there would be no problem. Not all the time, but most of the time. I would say that 99.999% or more of all of the problems, all of the destruction in this world, it's just people's emotions. And of course, our emotions are real to us. They should be validated. But let's keep it real. Our emotions have nothing to do with reality. reality is based on facts, not emotions. So when people are getting into their feelings and they're committing actions, behaviors out of their own emotions, none of this has anything to do with reality. Reality is based on logic. And we see this in science, it's all mathematics. Even if we want to look at this from a spiritual perspective, and we look at the construct of reality spiritually, it's got nothing to do with anger, pride, shame. It's got nothing to do with any of that. Fear. It's all based on love. And again, this is how things will never get better for them. Because there was no love for you. And then they went off into another situation, acting like they had love for someone else. Like, here's the thing, how you do one thing is how you do everything. And everything in this world is connected. So you can say you love one thing and not another thing, but then hold on, they're connected, they're together. One thing could not exist without the other. And this is why, when we talk about healing from narcissistic abuse, we don't speak of having hatred towards them. I always talk about having compassion for narcissists. No matter who they are, no matter what they've done. Because when you have that compassion, that is love. And you have to love everything in this life in order to then move on to heal and have a healthy relationship, experience fulfillment. So even when we look at it from a spiritual perspective, the way that they do things, it doesn't make any sense. It's not the right way to go about it. And that doesn't mean that you've got to go back to the narcissist and you've got to love them just so you can get hurt all over again. Because as we know, that's all that's going to happen. But that doesn't mean that at all. It means that we end things amicably, we go into contact if we have to, and then we just love them from afar. We be compassionate from afar by recognizing that this person is a product of their environment. Narcissism is learned from the people around them, their family, their peers. It's not something that they were born with. It's not inherently who they are. At some point in time, they were something else. They were something entirely different. At some point in their lives, they were not a narcissist. But certain things happened in their life. They experienced certain effects of the environment that then caused them to be that way. And that's why I do teach to have compassion for them from afar. Because they didn't ask to be treated that way. They didn't ask to be abused in their childhood, or neglected, or spoiled, or whatever it may be. That was something that was done to them. It doesn't so much mean that you have to forgive them or that you have to forgive yourself or anything like that, but simply pardoning them and having that compassion from afar, not for them but for you, so that you can then move on. And unlike them, you can actually then experience a healthy situation and find fulfillment by knowing that you did the best that you could. And if anything was going to work out, it would have. But often the reason why things end that way and why they're so angry, the anger comes from a lack of empathy. It comes from an inability for them to be able to share your feelings and experience. And that's how there's like no cutoff point for the abuse. It just goes on. And they end up sabotaging you, doing all of these things to you, because they genuinely, no matter how much time they spend around you, they don't know you. They don't understand your internal condition. They can't feel what you feel, because they're disconnected from themselves, so they're disconnected from you. But pretty much the way that they portray themselves at the end of the relationship, when they're moving on with a new supply, that's how they're thinking it is for you. Even if you're alone, even if you're by yourself, they think that you're having a great time without them, because they understand the effects that they have on people, and they know that by you being by yourself, that's going to bring you peace. Because at some level, they do recognize that it is them. They recognize that they're chaotic, they have this instability, and that if you're to be by yourself, things are only going to get better for you. And you're going to be a lot happier without them. They know that. And that's often why they come back. That's why they like to create chaos for you. Sorry for all of this noise in the background. I know it's getting louder and louder. And there's all of these characters behind me as well. But yeah, I can promise you they will not go into a better situation. It's not going to happen. They're never going to be happy. They're never going to be satisfied. They're too jealous, possessive, and controlling. Everything has to be all about them. And of course, what do they have? Anxiety, restlessness, depression, misery. So that's what everything has to revolve around. Which means that anything they get involved in is only going to go down. It's going to be destroyed. It's not going to go anywhere good. Because they have this mental condition. And if everything outside of them is natural, it's pure, it's functional, then it just reminds them how messed up they are in the mind. They like to recreate their internal condition in the external environment, so that they can offload how they feel about themselves and how it feels for them in their own mental experience. So that's what this is about. And as I always say, how a person treats you is a direct reflection of how they feel about themselves. So they feel a certain way internally, and then they treat you based on how they feel about themselves. And this is how you know if things didn't work out for you, if you didn't get the result that you wanted, and they left you in a bad way. All of that is actually just a reflection of their internal condition. It doesn't have to be a reflection of yours. Because remember, narcissists do not like themselves. They're not happy. So whatever they got, they want to project that onto you. And they could project it onto you emotionally, or they could orchestrate it as well to produce their desired effect. And it's just to recreate how their internal experience and how they feel about themselves. And even outside of a narcissist, at the core of it all, how we treat other people, how we behave around other people, it's all just a reflection of how we feel internally. And I can't think of any scenario where that is not the truth. How we behave, how we treat other people externally, it's all just a result of how we feel internally about ourselves. But they tricked us initially because they portrayed themselves as a happy person. And then we later found out that that was not true. When they seem happy and excited, it's only because they're around us and they feel like they get one over on us. So that's why they seem so excited. And that's why they may also put on a show in order to manipulate us and lure us in. But other than that, internally, they do not feel good at all. They're not happy. And it's very clear that they're not happy because it reveals a lot of frustration. I mean, just notice how nothing ever seems to be right for them. They've always got a problem. No matter what you do, they always have to change it. They've got to make their own personal adjustments. They want things to be different. And even when it's different, then they want to change it back, or they want to change it to something else. It's just all of this anxiety and frustration, and they're never happy with anything because they're not happy. They're not satisfied. And you will see this in anything with narcissists. They're in one situation, they're not happy with that, they think the grass is greener on the other side, they're not happy with that, and then they go back to you, they're not happy with you again, they find someone else. And their entire life is just them going from one person to the next, one situation to the next, never finding happiness in anything because they can't generate their own happiness from inside. And they also lack self-awareness, so they can't accept that it is them. But this is why they're always so angry and frustrated, because they're not satisfied. But no matter what you do, you can turn your personality inside out. You can change everything about yourself, and they still won't be happy. They will blame you for that. They will shame you for all of the changes that you made in order to please them. Because it's just no matter what you do, and it doesn't matter who they move on to, it doesn't matter who the new person is. As I said, it could be a millionaire, CEO, supermodel, and they will destroy that person as a result of their own internal state of chaos and dysfunction, and their own internal misery. Because it makes sense. I mean, when you're not happy, when you're not satisfied, you want things to be different. You want to change things. They can never just be in a moment and just be at peace with everything and not have to change or adjust anything. They can never do that. There's always going to be something more or something different or something else. They're never happy with anything. And I'm sure many of you have experienced that, because you did everything you could to make them happy and it still wasn't enough. And you know, we can go even deeper into it, because you may see them around other people and they don't have to do anything. They don't have to do anything at all to make the narcissist happy. And it's typically because they know that those people aren't really happy. Misery loves company, so they feel more comfortable around them. But it's never like that around you. When they get around you, everything has to be changed, improved, different. And it's because you're different, you're not like them. It's because you could be happy without anything having to change, without anything having to be any different. I mean, even with a narcissist, I mean, just look at how they treated you. Look at all of those years that they abused you and all of the problems that they caused for you. They may have ruined your life, and yet you still accepted it. You got on with it. You didn't do what they did to you. So, at the core of it all, even when they do come across someone who's happy, who's functional, who's satisfied with the world, with the life, they hate that person. They envy them. They want to figure out a way to make that person just as miserable as them, because that's exactly how they feel inside. And that's really what is at the core of it all. And so, by knowing this, we know that all they can do is move on to someone else, and they can only play happy families. They can only pretend like they've got a good situation and they're happy with each other. Even if they're married or they have children, they can only play pretend. Or they can find another you and just do the same thing that they did to you, because that makes them feel better as well. They can find someone else to hurt and destroy. But it's all just because they can't be satisfied. They couldn't be satisfied with you. They couldn't be satisfied with anything that you could do, anything that you tried to do for them. And even if they told you to do something they would reveal that they weren't happy afterwards. And this is why the only thing you can do is go no contact. That's really the only way that you can protect yourself from them. Because essentially they are just miserable people. They're not happy, they feel a lot of shame because no matter what, they just do not want to go within for the answers. They do not want to look at themselves. They don't want to accept what was done to them and how it caused them to do what they do to people. They don't want to do that. But it's how you should know that they will never be satisfied with anything. It doesn't matter what they do, it doesn't matter where they go. They're always going to be miserable. And it's up to you whether or not you want to grab some popcorn and watch the show, watch how it pans out. And essentially that is really what they want you to do. Because as I mentioned, yes, they do need an observer. They need someone who filters everything, their ideas, their perceptions, their reality through them, so that they can live vicariously through that person. Because they can't experience anything directly, it's impossible. And no matter how it may seem, and I have seen it all, I've been with narcissists over a long period of time and they act so happy, so joyful. And initially they act like everything you're doing for them is great. They act that way initially, but underneath it's actually very different. It's all just a show. It's all just how it looks for someone else. And it's because they can't experience anything directly. And the reason for that is because they don't accept themselves. They don't accept the real them. Underneath it all, underneath the illusion. And that's why they couldn't connect to you. Because how can you connect to anyone if you can't even connect to yourself? And of course, in order for them to connect to themselves, they would have to accept what evil people they are, how horrible they have been to people, how they've treated everyone. They would have to accept that first. They would have to be accountable for themselves, and only then can they connect to you by being authentic. And that's why instead they rely on their manipulation. They deceive people, and then you get caught up with them, you get involved with them, you think everything's going great, you think they like you, they put you on a pedestal, when it's like, no, they will never be able to appreciate you. And everything will only ever just be a show for someone else. And that's how they're never really exclusive to you. They're never just yours. There's always some other sucker who's watching. There's always someone else who's observing it. Typically it's their previous source. And then you end up becoming that person, watching them in the next situation. Because that's just it. They need someone's eyes to be on them so that they can live vicariously through them. And essentially, technically, even our experience with them, well, it isn't real. Because in order to be around them, you have to disconnect from yourself. So your experience with them, technically it wasn't even real because you were being manipulated. You were under a spell. And it was all just a projection. They wanted you to act out something for them. They wanted you to play a role, a character. So none of that was real, and it all just comes down to they want to relive their childhood experience because their body's screaming out to them, telling them, attend to this, you need to heal. But it's too painful for them to deal with. So instead they want to be on the other end of it, on the other end of whatever it was that traumatized them. And it's typically it's rejection, it's neglect, feeling unloved, feeling unlovable. As I said earlier, as a person treats you, it's a direct reflection of how they feel about themselves. So whatever they do to you, however they treat you, that was already done to them. It was done to them already. And they're just playing that out with you. They're trying to put you through it because then it regulates them and it's what was taught to them. And you know, typically that is the biggest mystery of it all. But that's really what it comes down to. It's just someone who they didn't get what they needed in childhood. They didn't get the love that they needed. And then they want to devalue you. They want to make you feel like something's wrong with you or you're unlovable. And then they just throw you away, they discard you, they idealize someone else, and then they do the same thing to them, although you don't always get to see that. And it's just an endless cycle. Because they leave other people feeling the exact same way that they do. They leave you feeling worthless, useless, unlovable. And they may cause you to want to put someone else through that same experience. If you develop narcissistic fleas, you may lash out at someone because you're disconnected from yourself. And that's how this cycle just goes on and on. And the worst part about it all is you think that someone could save these people, someone could fix it, but actually what they really want is someone who's resilient, someone who's going to bounce back. But those are the types of people that they target because they're strong, they're going to last. So, a person who bounces back and reconnects back to themselves, and instead of feeling unlovable, they can regenerate and make themselves feel good again and spread the love to everyone else. They want to destroy that. And they want to destroy that because there's nothing that you can do to make them feel lovable. You can't love them better. They do not want to deal with their traumas. And instead they want to project that onto you. And while they just continue living a fake life, and that's how the world is the way that it is today. This is why everyone's so fake. And unfortunately, a lot of people like narcissists. They look up to them, they admire them, And they love it when they go on social media. They love to see these fake relationships, these fake lives. They enjoy it. These posts get millions of likes and comments, and they're just encouraging it. And if you speak against it, if you say that it's fake, then you're jealous, you're a hater. When it's like, no, maybe you just want something real. But then most people, they never had a vision of something real, of a healthy family, of real love. Very few people in this world have actually seen that. A statistic from a family clinic shows that 96% of families in the world are dysfunctional. And it's usually the result of some childhood trauma, and they're stuck at a very low level of consciousness and awareness. But the only thing that they can do, and really just pay close attention, watch how they behave, listen to what comes out of their mouth. The only thing that they can do is play out their unresolved trauma, and they can never move past it. They can never move on, and they will remain stuck that way, because most people are not resilient. They're not built that way, to where they're a fighter. They want to keep fighting. Most people are not like that, and if they are, then they're a great target. They're an excellent target. Because then, no matter how much you beat them down, they just keep coming back up, and they just brush it off, act like nothing happened, because they want to move past it. They want to see the good in people. A person who had a good vision of love in their childhood is an excellent target, and will be a target for these predators today. And maybe that was many of you. Maybe many of you, maybe not in your own family, but maybe you saw something. Maybe you saw a healthy family dynamic, and it blinded you to these predators. As I know it did for me, because honestly, when I was younger, I had no idea that people were like this. I didn't know it. It happened gradually for me. And especially in my late teens, and then throughout my 20s, I just started to get all of this name calling and these personal attacks as I was growing older. And it's like, people just didn't want me to be me. They didn't want me to grow. They didn't want me to mature. And so many people were just jealous. But unfortunately, you can't express this to most people as well, because they're still going to be stuck in that programming from their childhood. And even when you think you can trust someone, and they will act like you can confide in them, they're just trying to get you to open up, so that they've got more ammunition against you that they can keep in their back pocket for a later date. And then they can further abuse you, especially in ways that you were abused before. So it's all set up against you healing and against you moving on, because there's a crabs in the bucket mentality, and while you can move on, a lot of people can't. But yeah, a very deep video for you. I was thinking I was just going to keep it simple, not too complicated. But yeah, I guess it is quite a complex topic. And it does require a lot of insight and understanding. Give it a thumbs up down below if you enjoyed it. Let me know what happened to your narcissist in the comment section. Did they move on? Are they doing better now? Or have you seen their fall? You let me know in the comments. Hit that subscribe button. Click all notifications so that you will be notified when I go live again. And donations are greatly appreciated. You are welcome to donate to my PayPal. It's paypal.me/Narc Survivor. If you would like to book a one-on-one coaching session with me, just go to my website. It is narcsurvivor.co.uk. And you can follow me on my Instagram as well. It's Narc Survivor YouTube. Thanks all of you for joining me on another live. And you all have a great day or evening wherever you are in this beautiful world.